Now, this currency is not without controversy. Some say that its anonymous nature makes it an ideal tool for narcotics dealers and other criminals. Others argue it's backed by nothing and could easily collapse. Joining us now via Skype to discuss all of this is Jerry Brito. He's the director of the Technology Policy Program at George Mason University's Mercatus Center. Jerry, welcome to the stream. Thanks so much for being with us. Tell us a little bit about why Bitcoins are being used. What's the genesis of this?
Well, there are two main advantages of Bitcoin. I mean, one of them is, like you said, they're completely decentralized. So there's no central bank that can inflate the money supply artificially. The other thing is that because there is no bank, no Bitcoin building, no Bitcoin corporation, there's no choke point that a government could go to, like you said before in the video, to freeze an account. And that's important for many reasons we can get into.
Now, is there any degree to which the financial crash in 2008 spurred people to be creating these alternative currency forms?
I don't think it has much to do with the crash itself, although if you think that the crash existed because of loose money from the Fed, then yes, you could imagine that that motivated, in this particular case, it's Satoshi Nakamoto, who is a pseudonymous name for the person who created Bitcoin. That might have inspired him or her to create this.
Now, Jenny, I want to get your thoughts on this because it's a really interesting concept, and it's something that a lot of people have some trouble understanding, but in a nutshell, it's a purely digital form of money. Some people are saying that, well, it's kind of risky. What do you think? Is this a natural extension of the digital world, or is this something that's going to be a new kind of black market?
So I actually find it completely fascinating, both from a theoretical level and also an implementation level. And actually, if people, total geeks, and actually Google the paper that he mentioned online, it's on the Bitcoin website. So one thing that's sort of interesting to understand is that one person's criminal is another kind of country's freedom fighter. So in the same time, by sort of opening up this kind of peer-to-peer currency system, on one hand, it's true, you might be enabling sort of legal transactions and involving narcotics, as some U.S. senators have sort of accused the system of allowing. But at the same time, it also means that people who don't want to be under the oppression of their own government suddenly have a way to sort of pay for transactions outside their system.
Because part of what makes it special is that it doesn't require a third party. You don't have to go through a bank. It can be truly peer-to-peer. Go ahead, Jerry.
I can give you an example of that.
Yeah.
Well, so think about WikiLeaks, right? When Cablegate happened, WikiLeaks made an appeal for donations.
Yes.
And they said, you can contribute to us via PayPal. And if you're an American who wants to express yourself politically because you agree with what WikiLeaks is doing, you'd want to go to PayPal and make a donation. But what did you find? You find that WikiLeaks' accounts were frozen, and you couldn't make that transaction. And same went for Visa and Bank of America. And why is that? It's because Senator Lieberman put pressure on these companies to prohibit those transactions. So remember, there's no law passed here. It's just simply political pressure, and Americans couldn't express themselves that way. Just yesterday, WikiLeaks announced that they're taking Bitcoin donations.
Well, we actually have a tweet from them, and Ahmed has got it in front of his laptop.
Yeah, just 2 or 3 quick tweets to get in. WikiLeaks is as recently as 4 hours ago asking for anonymous Bitcoin donations. So just on the point that you just made.
And actually, before you read that other one, he also, to this same point about what happened with Visa and MasterCard, at Jeff Jarvis at that same time tweeted, "Hey, Visa, MasterCard, PayPal, it's my money. How dare you tell me where I can and can't spend it?" Go ahead, Ahmed.
Yeah, so the other tweet that we got in from Goopmang is a pretty basic question, but he's very excited about the prospect for Bitcoin eliminating the need for powerful banks, but he's not sure how it would be secure. Can you talk on the security aspects of this?
Yeah, security is an issue, and again, this is a system that's brand new. So there's a story circulating this week that there was somebody who had about $500,000 worth of Bitcoin on his computer. Some hackers broke in and essentially stole it. Remember, it's cash. I mean, if you lose the Bitcoin money, it's like losing actual cash. So in that sense, it is less secure than cash. My question is, well, how much cash do you keep on you at any one time?
Yeah.
You probably keep what's in your wallet, which is probably, I don't know, enough to get through the day, maybe a bit more. You don't want to keep $500,000 in cash. So while it's not as secure as keeping it in a bank that is guaranteed by a government, it's still going to serve a good function of, for anonymous transactions.
You know, Jerry, I want to play actually a video since you mentioned that, this is a video of a gentleman that we spoke to earlier who talked about how some people collaborated in trying to get that money back. I just want to take a quick look at this.
Or somebody has lost Bitcoin, where they the community as a whole tracked down where it came from, and they're actually able to freeze the funds. And I believe they got the money back. I'm not positive on that.
Now, he's saying he's not certain that they got the money back, but the idea that I thought was interesting is that the community as a whole went to seek to try to get that money back. His name is Matt Courtney, and we had a chance to speak to him earlier. This is generating some interest from our audience online.
Yeah, there's a lot of enthusiasm around this topic. Now, Master Lenky asked, how does Bitcoin deal with inflation so as not to decrease its own value? And then someone chimed in right away, B_Fung, answering, so maybe you can answer this quickly. He says the rate of production of new coins is actually controlled by a computer algorithm that automatically adjusts based on demand. Is that true?
That's right. So when you have a central bank like the U.S. Fed or the Central European Bank, they introduce new money into the economy by basically printing more money, essentially. So the amount of new money in the economy, and therefore the amount of inflation, is in the hands of these central bankers. With Bitcoin, there is a very a strict and predictable amount of new Bitcoins that are minted every day. And
now,
so,
Jerry, on that front, I actually want to hold that thought and continue this conversation in our post show, because we want to talk about the implications of this for global finance. Want to thank you for being with us. Want to thank you as well, Jenny. Remember, you can learn more about Bitcoin on our website. You can go straight to stream.aljazeera.com. We're going to be continuing this conversation right there. You can always tweet us at AJStream. We will see you online. Welcome to the Post Show. You are still with us here in the stream. We're talking about Bitcoins, the world's first truly all-digital currency. Now, we're having a chance to speak with Jerry Brito from George Mason University. And Jerry, you were talking us a little bit about the question of how Bitcoin's algorithm responds to issues of demand. Okay, well, it's a little complicated, so bear with me. But basically, the way money is injected into the Bitcoin economy, the new Bitcoins are created, is that when you're running the Bitcoin software, you are verifying the transactions that are being broadcast over the network. And as you do this, what you're doing basically is you're contributing computational power to the network. And every 10 minutes, there is 50 Bitcoins awarded to somebody, to a node on the network, kind of at random. And so in that way, you are sort of rewarded for contributing your computational power. Now, this is 50 Bitcoin every 10 minutes. If there are more nodes that come into the network, the math problem that has to be solved gets harder to maintain the rate of 50 Bitcoin per every 10 minutes. Now, this will continue for 4 years, starting in 2009 when Bitcoin started, until 2013. At that point, the amount of Bitcoin awarded every 10 minutes will go down to 25.5, right? So, or I should say to 25. Bitcoin. It'll be halved. So in 4 years after that, it'll be halved again. So in a nutshell, it's a controlled system so that you'll have, there's a maximum number of Bitcoins that will ever be created, but the value of those Bitcoins vis-a-vis other currencies will depend upon demand, because the supply will ultimately be capped. Right. And the thing that's intriguing to me about all of this is that money is based on trust. Do you believe that this thing is going to be redeemable for goods and services? And do you believe in the alleged value of it? So to bring this back to you, Jerry, if people trust in Bitcoins the way they trust in the euro or in the yuan or in the real or in the dollar, is it any less legitimate a currency because it's not tied to a nation state?
I don't think so, personally. I think that the money doesn't have any inherent value. The only value in any particular currency is, like you said, that you expect that you're going to be able to take it and use it to get other goods or services for that money. And if I can tell you briefly why, you just got that tip. Somebody just sent you a Bitcoin very easily. The reason it's so important, think about micropayments. The reason that micropayments are so difficult to do is because there's so much transactions cost, so much overhead to do them, right? So if I go to New York Times and I want to read an article and I want to pay 0.01 cent to read an article, that's also possible to do because it probably costs 5 cents to just do the transaction. With Bitcoin, there is almost no transactions cost, so it really allows for these new micropayments to take place.
So what do you think is the potential of this? Do you think that this is something that is going to grow? Do you think otherwise, or that nation states are going to see it as a threat? You can't track the people that are using it. You can't freeze their accounts if you decide you don't like what they're doing with their money. Yeah. And they're potentially making your particular currency or your, you know, your bank, central bank obsolete.
Well, there's one little interesting thing about the Bitcoin system, which is every transaction is public, even though the receivers themselves may be anonymous. So in a way, it's a different kind of like scrutiny on the system, right? Because the way that you keep track of all the Bitcoins I'm moving about is you have to make those transactions public, so you're not using the same Bitcoins over and over again.
Well, one tweet that we got, Jerry and Jenny, for you guys, I'll share this with you, is from BF Rare Republic saying Bitcoin as a fiat currency is actually not new. So the island of Yap used stone rings for currency. Now, the island of Yap is in Micronesia, I believe, or nearby. So for those of our viewers who are not familiar, I'm just gonna, that's the little island, as you can see, right off the coast of Australia. And another tweet that came in on a similar topic is from the same guy saying, also, it's quite similar to tally sticks, which has been used in England until the end of the 1600s.
So I think a lot of societies have used different kinds of currency. I mean, what I'm wearing around my neck, these are, people always ask me, what are these beads? These are cowrie shells. And back in the day in my culture, they were used as currency. So I wear this as a way of indicating that I remember where I come from, and that I come from a powerful and wealthy society.
I'm going to take that note just because I've had over hundreds of people ask me
what
that.
These are?
And so now we have.
I wear money around my neck, yo.
Sorry to get off topic.
Bitcoins. But let me go back to you, Jerry, because I do want an answer to this question: are Bitcoins a potential threat to traditional currencies?
Well, I don't think they're going to be a threat to traditional currencies.
Do you think that nation states might find them to be a threat?
Yes. Are they going to be a threat to governments and to law enforcement, or are they going to be seen as a threat?
Exactly.
Absolutely. And we already see Senator Schumer calling for banning Bitcoin because it can be used for drug transactions. And what I'd say to that is, number one, it's really impossible to shut down Bitcoin because Bitcoin's a distributed network. There's no place you can go to flip the switch and shut it down. So that's sort of neither here nor there. But Bitcoin is like cash, and cash can be used for illegal things. It can be used for illegal things. And you have to hate the player, not the game, right?
There's a question that also came in online from @BCatDC that says, where besides Silk Road can you spend Bitcoins? And to your point, Jerry, just for our viewers who are not familiar with this, Silk Road is what's become this notorious anonymous platform for people to buy drugs. They use Tor in order to hide their IP addresses, and so they can sell and buy and sell illicit substances without necessarily being under the scrutiny of the authorities. We'll see how long that lasts. But to answer the question, Jerry, what other places are Bitcoins being used?
Well, if you go to bitcoin.org, you'll see a list, and there's a wiki, so you can keep adding stuff to the list. There's a list of merchants who will take Bitcoin, and they include all sorts of weird things. So alpaca socks is an example that is often cited. Hosting services, for web hosting services, graphic design and programming. Different people will take Bitcoin. But it's a very small number, and it has to grow if Bitcoin is going to be successful.
Well, I'm seeing a tweet on the Bitcoin website. They've actually got a feed about people talking about Bitcoin, and they've got us in it. @DTaha says, I can envision an anarcho-communist world where a system similar to Bitcoin is used instead of traditional money. Down with banks. I will say, however, maybe it's possible to envision a world where Bitcoin will live just aside all these other forms of currency, just like the euro lives beside the yuan, lives beside the pound. Thank you so much, Jerry, for being with us and explaining this. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
And thank you for joining us in the post show. Remember, tomorrow is our feedback show. It's all about you. Tweet us your ideas @AJStream. Send us your Storifys. We will see you online.